Hello everyone, welcome to Voxel. In this video we're going to discuss reading passage 1 of test 3 which is taken from academic book 18th. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So the title of the passage says materials to take us beyond concrete. Concrete is everywhere but it's bad for the planet, generating large amounts of carbon dioxide. Alternatives are being developed. So from the title it's quite clear that in this particular passage we're going to read about those materials which are expected to replace concrete or which are in the process of replacing concrete. So why we are trying to replace concrete? Because there will be some information about how it impacts the environment, why it's bad for the environment, and what are those alternatives and why they will be good for the environment, I believe. So what's the benefit of doing this, reading the title and trying to understand the context, that you will not feel overwhelmed when you will read the information. I have seen students saying that they feel overwhelmed or they feel bored when they're trying to read some particular kind of information. It is different for different students, but they feel bored while reading some kind of information, so that's why their scores decrease. But in exam you cannot give such kind of excuses, because then you will not get your desired band score and you will not be able to complete your or fulfill your dreams. So that's why it's important to like take your mind in that particular direction so it will not feel bored or overwhelmed. So now what we're gonna do, if you have watched my previous videos, yes, now we're gonna read the questions, look at the questions, what kind of questions we are dealing with, make some strategy, and then come to the paragraph and start reading it. So let's look at the number of questions. So if you see, there are total of 13 questions, 1 to 13. Let's see, and questions are on the right hand side, questions 1 to 4. So this just means that there will be like more than one set of questions, because we have only 4 questions, but there are total 13 questions in the paragraph. Reading passage 1 has 8 sections, A to H. So we know there are 8 paragraphs, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So there are 8 paragraphs given to us. So which section contains the following information? So this particular set of questions consists is of paragraph contains information. So we have to tell, like for example, first question's information is in which paragraph. If it's in A, we will write A. If it's in B, we will write B. So students find these kind of questions like difficult because they are not in order. So your first question can be in A, or it can be in, let's just say, D. Second can be in A or B, something like that, or in the last paragraph. So there is no fixed order. So that's why students sometimes, or many students, think these questions are difficult to tackle. But when we will solve it, you should pay close attention on how we solve it, so that you can learn how to solve them effectively and effortlessly. 5 to 8. So this is the second set of questions, so that means we have more than 2 sets. One word only we have to complete this summary, so we have to write only one word. So these are the blanks. Making buildings with wood. Okay, 9 to 13. So this is the last set, because we have only 13 questions. So this is the last set, 9 to 13. Look at the following statements and the list of people below. Match the statement with the correct person. So you have to match people with the statement. So wherever, what we will do for this is, wherever we will find some name like Chris Cheeseman, Marcus Manstorm, Anna Sergno, Felix Preston, and Joanna Lane. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing some names. Uh, okay, so I'm sorry beforehand. I may mispronounce them even in the later in the video, so I'm sorry for that. So okay, and one more thing to note, that you may use any letter more than one. So that's common sense. So how many names are there? 4. But how many questions are there? 5. So obviously, to answer all the 5 questions, at least one alphabet or one name will be repeated. I hope it is clear. Now we will make a strategy. So for this set of questions, the only strategy you can use is that, So let's just say read all the questions first, try to understand what the questions say. So then read the A paragraph and then try to find out whether any questions information is in A paragraph or not. If it is in A, you can write A in front of that and then move on to the next set. Clear? If it's not in the A paragraph, don't worry, because we have 8 sections and there are 4 questions. That means there are 4 extra paragraphs, meaning to say 4 paragraphs will have no information in them. So don't worry if you don't find information in like 2 or 3 paragraphs, you have 8 paragraphs to deal with. And for blanks, so the title of the passage is making materials to take us beyond concrete. Here they're saying making buildings with wood. So wherever this information will be given, wherever in whichever paragraph we will be making buildings with the help of wood instead of concrete or something like that, we will then read the 5th question then. Otherwise there is no use of reading this information beforehand. And for this, I have already told you, whenever we will read any name, we will mark it, and then after reading that particular information, we will read these questions. Clear? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna read the first 4 questions. I'm gonna try to make you understand what these questions mean, and then we will read the A paragraph. And after reading every paragraph for every set of questions, I will give you around 10 seconds to solve them. And if you need more time than that, you can pause the video and then continue when you are ready with your answer. I hope it is clear. So let's read the questions. An explanation of the industrial processes that create potential raw materials for concrete. So in whichever paragraph there will be, okay, let me change the color. In whichever paragraph there will be an explanation of the industrial process. In simple terms, in whichever paragraph there will be mention of some industrial process that create raw materials for concrete. So okay, so instead of the raw material we are using we are creating raw material that is used to mix in concrete. So in whichever paragraph there is information given, we will mark that paragraph as our answer for question number 1. Second, a reference to the various locations where high rise wooden buildings can be found. So here there's talking about there will be a mention of various location. Now instead of various locations, you could be given at a lot of places, many places, or you may be given name of like more than more than one location, like 2 or more, because there is the mention of location, so it is plural. So it basically as means it should be more than one, meaning to say minimum 2, or it can be more than that. So you may be given 2 or more names where high rise wooden buildings can be found. High rise buildings, with what kind of buildings are these? Yeah, you can say your apartments. Okay, so tall buildings, something like that. Third, an indication of how widely available the raw materials of concrete are. So there will be a mention, an indication, basically a mention of wide availability of raw materials of concrete. So again, instead of widely available, you may be given like it can be found everywhere, at most places, at a lot of places, something like that. You can be given different kind of paraphrasing. Okay, raw materials for concrete. The belief that more high-rise wooden buildings are needed before wood can be regarded as a viable construction material. So there is a belief, so people think something, what they think, what they believe, that we need more of high-rise wooden buildings, so that we can regard wood as a viable construction material. So there are some buildings. So what we mean by this question is there are some high rise wooden buildings, but we need more buildings like that before we can decide, yeah, wood is fine for making such kind of buildings. I hope I'm able to make you understand all these questions. So be very careful. Here they're saying that there is mention of various locations of buildings. Here they're saying that yeah, buildings are present, but we need more such buildings. Here they're talking about buildings. Here they're talking about the number of buildings. Here they're talking about the location of buildings. Here they're talking about the number of buildings. Be very careful about the difference between these two questions. Clear? So let's read the A paragraph now. Concrete is the second most used substance in the global economy after water and one of the world's biggest single sources of greenhouse gas emissions. So they're saying that concrete it is second most used substance after water. So after water we are using concrete that much, and it is one of the world's biggest single sources of greenhouse gas house emission sorry about that, greenhouse gas emissions. What happened to me? The chemical process by which cement, the key ingredient of concrete, is created results in large quantities of carbon dioxide. So they're saying that the chemical process of cement, like okay, we need we mix cement in concrete so that we can increase the strength, obviously, is which is the key ingredient of concrete. It is the like it results in the release of carbon dioxide. The UN estimates that there will be 9.8 billion people living on the planet by mid century. So this is the number of people living, that like this is the number that is expected. They will need somewhere to live. Obviously, if concrete is the only answer to the construction of new cities, then carbon emissions will soar, aggravating global warming. So, if obviously if there are 9.8 billion people, they will need a place to live, and if we have only concrete for the construction purposes, then carbon emissions will soar and it will make global warming worse. Aggravating meaning making something worse. So soar means increase, like increase sharply. And so scientists have started innovating with other materials in a scramble for alternatives to a universal commodity that has underpinned our modern life for many years. That's why scientists, they're trying to innovate with other materials, try to find the alternatives, okay, so that we can secure humanity from the impending doom, something like that. I hope it is clear. Now you will get around 10 seconds to tell me if there is any answer in from questions 1 to 4, and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the questions together now. Is there any mention of industrial process that we use to make raw materials for concrete? No. There is mention of raw material for concrete or material used in concrete, that is cement, but there is no mention of any industrial process like how is it made or something like that. So the process is not mentioned. So that's why it cannot be our answer. We don't have any mention of high rise wooden buildings, no mention of where the locations or something like that, and there is no mention of obviously wooden buildings. So in a paragraph we don't have any answers from question 1 to 4. So what about 5 to 8? Do we need to read question number 5? Is there any mention of making buildings with wood? No, there is no mention of this, so we don't need to read. And is there any mention of any person here? Again, there is no mention of any person, so we do not need to worry about this either. Now, moving on to the meaning to say, in a paragraph, we don't have any answer from 1 to 13. So, moving on to B paragraph. The problem with replacing concrete is that it's so very good at what it does. So, we're not talking about the problem, why it is problematic to replace concrete, because it's good at what it does. Chris Cheeseman, so here's the name, says the key thing to consider is the extent to which concrete is used around the world and is likely to be used. So this particular person is saying that let me remove this, otherwise it will distract us. So this person is saying that the key thing is to consider, like it's the important thing, that concrete is used around the world and it is likely it will be used. Concrete is not a high carbon product. Cement is high carbon, but concrete is not. But it is the scale on which it is used that makes it high carbon. The sheer scale of manufacture is so huge, that is the issue. So he's saying. So whenever you are trying to find the person, try to find the information in the inverted commas. So this is the information. So he's saying that concrete is, let me again do this. Concrete is not an issue. So we don't have any issues with concrete because it is not a high carbon product. Cement is high carbon product, but concrete is not. But the scale, but like the amount of concrete we manufacture, it makes it high carbon. Okay, so this is the mention. The sheer scale is so huge, it is the issue. So concrete in itself is not a problem, but the amount of concrete that is being manufactured, that amount is the problem. I hope it is clear. Now again, you will have around 10 seconds to tell me whether there is any answer in this particular paragraph from questions 1 to 4, and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the questions now. Is there any mention of any process of creating raw material for concrete? No. Is there any mention of high-rise wooden buildings? Again, no. Is there any mention of the wide availability of raw materials of concrete? Again, no. And obviously, fourth cannot be because there is no mention of wooden buildings. So again, in B paragraph, we didn't find, or we don't have any answers from the first four questions. Is there any use of reading for 5 to 8, like fifth blank, making woods buildings with wood? Is there any mention of making buildings with wood? No, so we don't have to worry about this. And obviously there is mention of one person. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna read all these questions. I'm gonna take you through all these questions, try to make you understand the differences between these questions, and then you will try to tell me whether there is any answer A option, because A is Chris Cheeseman, is if there is any A answer in this paragraph or not. Let's read the questions together now. The environmental advantage of cement alternatives may not be as great as initially assumed. So in which, if in this question it is saying that, so whatever the alternate cement alternatives are, their environmental advantage is not as great as we thought initially. Like we in the beginning, might have been thought that they will change the world, they will save humanity, but their advantages are not that great as we thought. Okay. 10th, it would be hard to create a construction alternative to concrete that offers so many comparable benefits. So they're saying that it would be hard to create an alternative because there are so many benefits. So that alternative that gives almost same benefits as concrete, it will be hard to create. 11th, worries about the environment have led to increased interest in wood as a construction material. So, because we are so worried about the environment, it increased the interest in wood as a construction material. So, because we are so worried about the environment, we started using wood as a construction material. Expense Expense has been a factor in the negative response to the development of new cements. So because of money, expense obviously means cost. Because of the cost, it becomes so high, it is negative for the development of new cement. So maybe the new cements that are low in carbon or something like that are costing, like that process is costing a lot of money. So that's why we are not that enthusiastic about creating those, or the industry is not enthusiastic enough to create those alternatives. 13th, the environmental damage caused by concrete is due to it being produced in large quantities. So they're saying that the damage to the environment that concrete causes is because of its but being produced in large quantities. Okay, so Now you have around 10 seconds to tell me whether, okay. And one more thing, as I told you earlier, so whenever you're trying to find the list of people or the answer to such kind of question, most of the times your answer will be in inverted commas, or some, or rarely after says or said. Clear? So I'm just gonna mark it here. So this is your location and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. I hope everybody arrived at the correct answer. And the is there any answer here or not? First, yes. So let's see which answer is this. Is there talk? Is he talking about environmental damage? Sorry, environmental advantage is not as great as we thought initially. No. Is he talking about it is hard to create an alternative? No. Is he talking about wood? The interest in wood is increasing. Again, no. Talking about money? No. The answer to this is question 13. A. So let me just write it here. I'm gonna explain. If you were not able to understand this, don't worry. I'll explain why 13th is our answer to this particular question. So let's see. Here they're saying that cement is high carbon, concrete is not a high carbon thing, but the scale on which it is used to is used, it makes it high carbon. The sheer scale of manufacture is so huge, that is the issue. The manufacturing scale is large, so it is being produced in large quantities. That is the issue for the environment. I hope it is clear. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph. See then. uh, yeah, let's move on to C paragraph. Let me change the color first. Not only are the ingredients of concrete relatively cheap and found in abundance in most places around the globe, the stuff itself has marvelous properties. So they're saying that not only, so this is the main thing they're talking about, not only the ingredients are relatively cheap, but these ingredients, they can be found in abundance in most places around the globe. Like they can be found like at almost everywhere around the globe. The stuff itself has marvelous properties. Concrete itself, it has a lot of good properties. Portland cement, the vital component of concrete, is moldable and pourable, but quickly sets hard. So they are talking about the properties of concrete. Cheeseman also notes. So here is again the name Cheeseman. Let me do this. In the, if you're doing it on pen and paper, you can put a star on it, make a circle on it, okay, around it, whatever you want to do, so that you can understand where the name is given. Also notes another advantage: concrete and steel have similar thermal expansion properties, so steel can be used to reinforce concrete, making it far stronger and more flexible as building material than it could be on its own. So another advantage is it can be used with steel, okay, because they have similar thermal expansion properties. Let me mark this. They have similar thermal expansion properties, so they can be used together, and it is making it far stronger and more flexible. According to Cheeseman, all these factors together make concrete hard to beat. So if we put all these properties together, it is making concrete hard to beat. Okay, it's making it looks like a champion. Concrete is amazing stuff. Making anything with similar properties is going to be very difficult. So now he's saying that concrete, it is amazing stuff, and if you want to make something with similar properties, like something about something similar to it, it is going to be very very difficult. I hope the paragraph is clear. Now you have around 10 seconds to tell me whether there is any answer from questions 1 to 4 here. Time starts now. Okay, time's up. So let's read the questions now. Is there any mention of any process to create raw materials for concrete? No, there is no mention about the process. Yeah, there is mention about ingredients of concrete. They are relatively cheap, but how they are made, something like that, it is not mentioned. Is there any mention about high-rise wooden buildings? There is no mention of wooden buildings here either. Okay, is there any mention about widely availability of raw materials of concrete? Yes, there is. So the answer to this particular question is C. But where it is? Yeah, in the first sentence. So ingredients, here they're saying they are found in abundance in most places around the globe. So most places around the globe meaning to say widely available. So it can be found easily. I hope it is clear. Again, fourth cannot be the answer because there is no mention of wooden buildings. Now, do we need to read question number 5 here? Again, no need. Why? Because there is no mention of making buildings with wood. So now moving on to these set of questions. Do we need to read these questions? Yes, because though we have, like, there is mention of Cheeseman, we have found one answer, but because of this, you may find any letter more than once, or you may use any letter more than once. So there can be two answers for one particular option. Clear? So this is the Cheeseman, and here it is talking about the, like, you can say, inverted commas. Now you have around 10 seconds. Tell me whether there is any answer in this or not, and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's see. And the answer to this is question number 10. Where it is written, let me change the color first. Yeah, so question is saying it would be hard to create construction alternative with so many comparable benefits. Here is saying, according to Cheeseman, concrete is amazing stuff. Making anything with similar properties is going to be difficult. Similar properties, comparable benefits or comparable properties. I hope it is clear. Just let me write the location here first. So we have found two answers. Let me just mark it as this. No need for this. Maybe, just maybe, there may be three answers to this particular option. So we cannot rule it out just yet. Clear? So now we're going to move to the D paragraph. So let's see, it's a small one. D, a possible alternative to concrete is wood. Making buildings from wood may seem like rather medieval idea. So here they're talking about making buildings with wood. uh, Let me do this. Yeah, making buildings with wood. So yeah, just let me mark so that we will remember we have information here. Making buildings from wood may seem like a rather medieval idea. So they're saying that there is a possible alternative, that is wood, because, and if you're trying to make buildings from wood, it may seem like an old idea. Medieval idea means ancient idea, old idea. But climate change is driving architects to turn to treated timber as possible resource. But because of the climate change, it is driving architects, or it is motivating architects, pushing architects to turn to treated timber, to turn to some okay, to turn to something means like to consider, to use. Okay, let's say you can, I am trying to increase your vocabulary here also. So if, let's say, somebody says it forced me to do something, it made me turn to someone. So it forced me to turn to someone. Clear? So it forced them, pushed them to use timber. as a possible resource. Recent years have seen the emergence of tall buildings constructed almost entirely from timbers. They were talking that in recent years, like in like few years, in the last few years, something like that, there is like a lot of construction going around, but of tall buildings that are constructed from timber. So timber means wood. Vancouver, Vienna, and Brumunddal in Norway are all home to constructed tall wooden buildings. So we're talking about tall wooden buildings. They like these buildings are being constructed at these places. I hope the paragraph is clear. Now again, you know the drill. Time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the questions together now. Is there any first? Is there any mention of any process to create raw materials for concrete in this paragraph? No, there is no mention of any process. Is there any mention of any various location where we can find high-rise wooden buildings? Yes, there is. So the answer to this particular is D paragraph, where it is written in the last sentence itself. Vancouver, Vienna, and Brumunddal. So I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this city's name. Question 2. So these are the locations. So as I already told you, so location means more than one, two or more. So they have given us three names of three places. I hope it is clear. Now, is there any mention? Do we need to read this? Yes, because it is mentioned making buildings with wood. Let's read the fifth question now. Let me change the color. What happened to the color? Yeah. Wood is a traditional building material. Yeah. Is there any mention of this? Yes, here it is. Is a medieval idea. Making, so that's a, but current environmental concerns are encouraging blank to use wood in modern construction projects. So but they're saying that the current present environmental concern, they are encouraging blank to use wood in modern construction projects. So what kind of word do you think can be here? It should be like someone encourage, because we are trying to use wood in construction projects, and obviously construction will be done by humans. It is not a natural process. It cannot take place on its own. Humans have to do that. So it should be some kind of person or something like that. So let's see. Making woods from may seem rather medieval idea, but climate change. So here talking about climate change. Here is current environmental concern is driving architects to turn to tree timber as a possible resource. So our answer is in this particular sentence, and you know the drill. You will get around 10 seconds. Time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to this question is yes, architects. I hope everybody was able to find this correct answer. If not, don't worry. I'm gonna explain why this is our answer and how we arrived at it. Let me do this first. So now they're talking about, as we have already established, current environmental climate change. So environmental concerns, climate change are encouraging. So encouraging here they're talking about driving, motivating, pushing architects to turn to timber, to use wood. So timber is basically wood in construction projects as a possible resource. So to turn to, as I already told you, to use, okay, something like that. I hope it is clear. Let's see the sixth question, if that is here or not. Using wood, however, has its challenges. Now we will talk. We will find that where it is written. If using wood has its challenges, basically it has some problem. There are some problems to use wood. For example, as blank in the atmosphere enters wood, it increases in size. So they have given some example that as blank in the atmosphere enters wood. So there should be something in the atmosphere. So it should be the answer should be something that is present in the atmosphere. When it enters wood, it increases in size. So we will not use common sense, but if you have like face such kind of problem during rainy seasons, monsoon, these doors don't close properly. So let's see what kind of problem is there during such kind of thing, or what is in the atmosphere during that particular season that the wood it swells. Let's see. We don't have any answer here because there is no mention of using wood, challenges in using wood. So let's read the e paragraph. Okay, now do we need to read questions from 9 to 13? No. Why? Because there is no name given here. So we don't have to worry about that. Let's read the E paragraph. Using wood to construct buildings, however, is not straightforward. Now we're talking about that, yeah, we can use wood to construct buildings, but it is not straightforward. That means it's not easy. It's not like bed of roses. There will be some kind of problems. Wood expands as it absorbs moisture from the air and is susceptible to pest, not to mention fire. So they're saying that wood, it expands when it absorbs moisture from the air, and it is susceptible to pest and obviously fire. But treating wood and combining it with other materials can improve its property. But if we treat wood and combine it with other materials, they will help to improve its properties. Cross laminated timber is engineered wood. An adhesive is used to stick layers of solid sawn timber together crosswise to form building blocks. So now we're talking about how cross laminated timber is made. This material is light but has the strength of concrete and steel. So this material, whatever we have made, is light in weight, but the strength is similar to concrete and steel. Construction experts say that wooden buildings can be constructed at a greater speed than ones of concrete and steel, and the process, it seems, is quieter. So this is the opinion of experts that we can make it at a greater speed and it's quieter. So there will not be too much noise of machines or something like that. I hope it is clear. Now you know the drill. The time starts now for question 1 to 4. Okay, time's up. So let's read the questions together. Is there any mention of any process to create raw materials for concrete? No. Second, third we have done. Is there any mention that we need more high rise buildings before we can finally decide that, yeah, they can be used as a construction material? No, there is no mention of the number of wooden buildings. So we don't have any answers here. Let's read these. Is there any mention of using wood has challenges? Yes. So here it is written, using wood to construct buildings is not straightforward. Using wood has its challenges. Now, for example, as dash in the atmosphere enters, wood increases in size, wood expands. So wood increases in size, expands. So our answer is or should be in this particular sentence, and you will have around 10 seconds to tell me that. The time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to this particular blank is moisture. I hope you were able to arrive at the correct answer. If not, don't worry, I'm going to explain as always. Just give me a few secs. Okay, so now why or how we arrived at this particular answer. So here they're saying that, for example, as something in the atmosphere enters wood. So here they're saying that wood, it increases in size, it meaning to say wood. So they say wood expands as it absorbs. So absorbs meaning to say enters. So if you are absorbing something, something is entering in you. So from the air, from the atmosphere. I hope it is clear. Let's see if seventh is here or not, because the whole paragraph is remaining. In addition, wood is prone to pest and the risk of fire. Yeah, there is mention of pests and fire. So here it is, pest, fire. However, wood can be turned into a better construction material if it is treated and combined with other materials. So yeah, we are combining and improving its properties. In one process, dash of solid wood are glued together to create building process. So we're talking about one particular process. You remember, you have to write one word only, do not write more than that. Blank of solid wood, they are glued together, okay, glued together so that they can create building blocks. So let's read the paragraph now again together. Just one second, guys, let me drink some water. Okay, so thank you for waiting. Now, where were we? Yeah, we're trying to find, in one process, dash of wood are glued together. So it should be something of wood that are glued together. So let's see, we have, I believe, read something like that. Cross laminated timber is engineered wood. Yeah, we're talking about combining and other material to make it better. An adhesive is used to stick layers of solid sawn timber together crosswise to form building blocks. So to create building blocks. So here, to form building blocks, meaning to say to create, to form something, to create something. So that just mean our answer, yeah, is in this particular sentence. So to find out this that answer, your time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to this particular question is yes, layers. I hope you are able to find this particular answer, but if not, let me I will explain. Just give me 1 second. Question 7. Okay, now let's see why the layers is our answer. So say they're talking about a one particular process, so that is the process is mentioned here. Cross laminated timber is engineered wood. So what do we do to make this kind of wood? An adhesive is used to stick. Adhesive is basically a thing that you use to glue things together, sticks. So to stick something together, meaning to say to paste something together, to glue something together. Dash of solid wood, layers of solid sawn timber. So solid sawn timber, solid wood, solid timber, solid wood. I hope it is clear. Let's see its question now. These blocks are lighter than concrete. Yeah, we have yeah, material is light than this and equal in strength. So we are talking about lighter in, and then concrete and equal in strength. So it has the strength of concrete and steel, equal in strength. Experts say, so here they're talking about experts. Experts say that wooden buildings are an improvement on those made of concrete and steel in terms of the blank with which they can be constructed and how much noise is generated by the process. So they're talking about the noise. So here is quite a, so they're saying that now they're talking about that we can make wooden buildings and it is they are an improvement on those made of concrete and steel. But in what kind of terms? Because the strength is same but they are lighter. So in terms of blank with which they can be constructed, so they can be constructed, and in terms of that, and in terms of noise, they are like better than concrete and steel. Let's see. Construction experts say that the wooden buildings can be constructed at a greater speed than ones of concrete and steel. Sorry about that. Concrete and steel process, it seems quieter. So how much noise? Basically quieter. So in this particular sentence, our answer is present, and you will have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. And the answer to this particular question is speed. That's right. Let me do this. I hope you were able to find this answer. Arrived at this, identify it. If not, don't worry. I'm gonna explain it to you how we found out this and how you can improve your reading with this kind of strategy. So here they're talking about, there are two terms. One is noise and other is something else. So here they're talking about constructed at a greater speed than with concrete and steel, and the process is quieter. So how much noise, that is quieter, and other thing is about speed. So speed with which they can be constructed, so it is greater, that's an improvement. If I talk about greater, it's an improvement. So if you can run at a greater speed, so you have improved yourself. If you can, let's just say, if you go to gym and you are able to pick up heavier weights, so you will say I have improved. So that's why how we can relate greater to improvement here. I hope it is clear. Now, do we need to read sorry about that, do we need to read what is happening here? Yeah, do we need to read these questions from 9 to 13? No. Why? Because no name is mentioned in this paragraph. So let's go to the F paragraph now. Okay, Stora Enso is Europe's biggest supplier. Is there any mention of Stora Enso? No, so this is something else. This is not the name of the person that we are interested in. So Stora Enso is Europe's biggest supplier of cross-laminated timber, and its vice president Marcus Manstrom reports that the company is seeing increasing demand globally for building in wood. So Marcus Manstrom is the person we're interested in. So let's mark it in blue. So now they're talking that Marcus is saying that the company, but he's the like vice president of some particular company, and his company is seeing increasing demand globally for building in wood. With climate change concerns the key drivers, because of the climate change concern, it is the number one reason why people are demanding wood to make their houses. Finland, with its large forests where Stora Enso is based, has been leading the way. So, this particular company is based in Finland. Because of their large number of forests, they are able to meet those demands. But the company is seeing a rise in demand for its timber products across the world, including in Asia. But not only in Finland or nearby, even in Asia, the demand of timber is increasing. Of course, using timber in building also locks away the carbon that it absorbed as it grew. But even treated wood has its limitations, and only when a wider range of construction projects has been proven in practice will it be possible to see wood as a real alternative to concrete in in constructing tall buildings. So they're saying that, yeah, of course, the main benefit is that it locks away the carbon that the wood absorbed as it grew. So there will be less carbon in the atmosphere. But even if we talk about treated wood, it has its limitations, and only when, and this is the condition, and only when there are wide range of projects. Okay, there will be a lot of projects that has been proven in practice will it be possible to see wood as a material alternative to concrete in constructing tall buildings. So before that, we cannot say, yeah, we can replace building, sorry, we can dump concrete, replace concrete with wood, until and unless there is a wide range of construction projects that are proven over time. We cannot say like this, we cannot replace concrete for sure. I hope it is clear. Now you know the drill. For question 1 to 4, the time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the questions. Is there any mention of any process to create raw materials? There is no mention of raw materials or process. So is there any mention that there more high rise wooden buildings are needed before we can think of wood as a viable construction material? Yes, there is. So the answer to this particular question is F paragraph, where it is written, yes, in the last sentence itself. Let me mark it completely here. Only when. So here they're talking about only when the number of projects they are large, they are like they are wide enough. We get a lot of buildings that are made with under these projects from wood. We cannot replace concrete for sure. I hope it is clear. Now, there is mention of Marcus Manstrom here also. So we have done all the blanks, so we don't need to worry about that. So you have around 10 seconds to tell me to if there is any answer here or not, and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the questions together. Is there any mention or is Marcus saying that environmental advantage of cement alternative, basically wood, is not as great as it was thought? There is no mention about that. 10th we have done. 11th, is Marcus saying that worries about environment has increased the demand of wood, interest in wood, demand of wood? Yes. So the answer to 11th is B option. I hope you were able to find this, and where it is written, let me mark this. So here, Marcus reports that the company is seeing increasing demand globally for building in wood, with climate change concern the key driver. So because the climate change is the main reason people are demanding wood to construct their house. I hope it is clear. Moving on to the G paragraph. So it's quite big. So for G, what we're gonna do is, for these kind of paragraphs, we will read this paragraph first. Then I will give you some time to tell me whether there is any whether only first question is left, whether first is here or not, and if it is we will mark, if it is not then we will read, and then if there is any name we will go straight to them, and I will give you the 10 seconds more to tell me whether there is answer or not, and similarly we will do to this particular paragraph. So let's read the first part of the G paragraph. Fly ash and slag from iron ore are possible alternatives to cement in concrete mix. Now we're talking about alternatives. Where it is. So these two are the alternatives: fly ash and slag from iron ore. Fly ash, a byproduct of coal burning power plants, can be incorporated into concrete mixes to make up as much as 15 to 30% of the cement. So if you use fly ash, and what is fly ash? It is a byproduct of coal burning power plants. So when we burn coal in power plants to produce electricity or power, other kind of power, basically electricity obviously, so whatever is left of that particular coal we call it fly ash, so that is called a byproduct. So it can be used into concrete mixes, and it will make up to 50 to 30% of the cement without harming the strength or durability of the resulting mix. Iron ore slag, a byproduct of the iron ore smelting process, can be used in a similar way. So fly ash is the byproduct of coal burning power plant, and iron ore is a byproduct of iron ore smelting process, and it can also be used in the similar way as we are using fly ash. Their incorporation into concrete mixes has the potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So if we use them, incorporate them into concrete mixes, they can reduce greenhouse gas emission. Why? Because they are already there. We do not need to make them separately. So we are using coal and we are using iron ore slag, iron ore smelting, so they are the byproduct, so they will be like left behind, whatever is left behind of iron ore and coal. So instead of throwing them out, we can use them, so we don't have to make extra raw material. I hope it is clear. Now you have around 10 seconds. Tell me whether there is any, whether first answer is here or not. Time starts now. Okay, time's up. So is there any mention of any process to create raw materials? Yes, there is. So the answer to this is G. Where it is? Where are the industrial process? Here. From here you can say to here. They're talking about the process by which we create raw materials used in concrete. Question mark. I hope you were able to understand this. Do we need to read the 9 to 13th now, because there is no game name given? But now we have done all these four questions, all these blanks. So only these questions are remaining. So we will focus on them now. Let me change the color permanently now. Okay. But Anna Surgener. So yeah, there is Anna Surgener C option of the UK's Green Building Council. UK's Green Building Council notes that although these waste products can save carbon in the concrete mix, their use is not always straightforward. So this particular person, Anna, she's saying that yeah, these waste products can save carbon in the concrete, but their use is not as straightforward or as simple as it seems. It's possible to replace the cement content in concrete with waste products to lower the overall carbon impact. So yeah, it is possible to lower the carbon impact if we use these, but there are several calculations that need to be considered across the entire life cycle of the building. These include factoring in where these materials are being shipped from. If they are transported over long distances using fossil fuels, the use of alternative materials might not make sense from an overall carbon reduction perspective. So she's saying that if you are using, so there are several things that you need to consider, like what kind of things. So if you are transporting them over a long distance, so let's just say if you're transporting them from 500 miles away, 1000 miles away, or from other countries, so the use of fossil fuels to transport them from one place to another, like for 500 kilometers or miles, whatever the unit you want to use, so it will not make sense if you consider overall carbon reduction perspective. So overall you are polluting the environment maybe more by transporting them. Clear? So she's saying like this. Now you have around 10 seconds to tell me whether 9 or 12th. Only two questions are left, whether 9th or 12th is in this paragraph or not, and time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the questions. Ninth. Is there any mention that environmental advantage of alternatives is not as great as it is initially assumed? Yes. So the answer to this is C. Remember, do not write G. We are not writing the paragraph here. Do not get confused. We are writing the person who is saying this particular thing, and that person is Anna. So the answer should be C, not G. I have seen students make such kind of errors. We are not writing the paragraph here. We are writing the person who is saying this particular thing, and she is saying this. So if you are transporting them to long distances, from the overall perspective it will not make any sense. So not as great as we thought, so it is not as straightforward. Why? This is the reason. So if you are transporting them over long distance, they will produce maybe they produce more carbon dioxide or more greenhouse gas than if you used concrete that was built locally. I hope it is clear. Cement, sorry, if you used cement that was built locally, so whatever thing we are replacing. So only one question is left, I guess. 12th we have done. Okay, let's read the last paragraph now. So we have only one D. So maybe this is D, but maybe some other can be. While these technologies are all promising ideas, they are either unproven or based on materials that are not abundant. So now we're saying that yeah, these technologies, they are promising ideas, so they look good on paper, but they are either unproven or based on materials that are not abundant. So we are dependent on natural resources too much. In their overview of innovation in the concrete industry, Felix Preston and Joanne Lane, uh, what is happening to my mouse? So this is the name we are looking for. Of the UK's Royal Institute of International Affairs reached the conclusion that some novel cements have been discussed for more than a decade within the research community without breaking through. So now they're talking about that. Yeah, we are talking about some novel cements. So novel cements uh, are. So what does novel here means? Yeah, new. Some new cements, we are talking about them, but we haven't made any breakthroughs yet. At present, these alternatives are rarely as cost effective as conventional cement. At right now, these cements are not as pocket friendly as conventional cements, and they face raw material shortages and resistance from customers. And other problem apart from cost is that there is shortage of raw material and customers don't like these kind of stuff. Okay, now I don't think so there is any need to give you time, but I'll give you just say 5 seconds to tell me the answer. Okay, time's up. So obviously the answer to 12th will be option D, where it is written here about cost effective. So no, let me just first mark the option location and then I'll explain. So here they're talking about expense has been a negative response in the development of new cement. So for the expense, they're saying that they are not as cost effective, and obviously they face resistance from customer. So what I do is, let me leave it here. Yeah. So here they're talking about negative response in development of new cement. So obviously they are not as cost effective. So obviously this is expense. Talking about expense, developments of new cement. So I already told you novel cement means new. So novel means new. So you will, if you say this is a novel experience, new experience. So breakthrough, development. Okay, I hope it is clear. So let's see if we have done all the questions. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So I hope you were able to understand all the questions. But still, if you don't understand anything, you should rewatch that part of the video again and again. And if you want to rewatch the entire video, be my guest. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do. And if still the doubt persists, you can ask us in the comment section. We will be happy to reply you. And you can watch more videos in our playlist. You can go to our playlist and you can watch a lot of videos there also. So that's it for this video. Then I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.